Hey everyone, and welcome to Comic Breakdown. If you're new to the page, be sure to hit that sub button and make sure you like this video if you're enjoying the content we have coming out. Now, before we dive into this one, I am going to say that we are going to be covering indie comics every weekend from now on. So at least on Saturdays, possibly Sundays as well, schedule depending. And so that brings me to today's issue of Kinetic, number 1. Now, this is published by Y Comics, and the writer is Bill Collum. Line work is done by Rafael Cristani. Colors is by Ami Ramonte. Letters is by Lucas Gattoni. The cover line work is done by Jason Metcalf, and cover colors is done by Ivan Runes. Now, what really sold me on this is the cover artwork. Every single issue of Kinetic's cover art is absolutely phenomenally done. Like, it is just beautiful. Alright, and so with that being said, let's dive into this issue. Now, diving into this issue, we're met with two brothers, Jimmy and Johnny, and they grew up on the south side of Velo City. Now, these two individuals, they always left early on their motorcycles to head off to work. They wanted to beat the morning traffic. And as they're driving along, his brother, Jimmy, is doing some, crazy little tricks and showing off on his motorcycle. And this is where Johnny gets distracted. And he gets distracted because of a superhero. A superhero by the name of the Ascender. And essentially, this guy is the first one to put on a mask, at least in this city that we know of. He's the first one to do it. No one really knows who this guy is. He's more of an Iron Man type suit. And Johnny was so distracted that he actually laid his bike down. So, you could say that this guy's his hero. Anytime he sees him, he's just in awe of who this guy is. He's the Ascender. Now, obviously, this causes them to be a little bit late to work, but we find out that their work is actually their parents. And so this shop that their parents have, is not a big deal if they arrive late to it. And we see them having, family discussion and things of that nature, but really, they're getting harped on because they're late, and then, everybody's tired of Johnny talking about the Ascender, so you can tell that, he's talked about him a lot, it's his hero. And his brother brings up a good point. He's like, have you ever seen the Iron Ascender patrolling the south side? Sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes, is what his brother tells him. And so we're realizing that the south side really isn't patrolled, at least not by any superheroes. And that this caused a lot of issues, obviously, for the south side, the more poorer side of town, at least for Velo City. Now, we pick up at his high school 4 years ago, and Johnny's talking to a female friend of his. Well, essentially, they're passing a note in class, but the real thing to take away from this panel is what the teacher is talking about, because the teacher is talking about potential energy and kinetic energy. Now, this is where it picks us up with modern day. And modern day, him and his brother, they go ahead and decide to walk a lady home. I don't know if it's their mother or so much if it's just somebody that's employed with the family, because you can't really tell. It doesn't really specify in that regards. But they do have a conversation about how the south side was supposed to be cleaned up and it never happened. And that, you can literally tell the exact spot where the money ran out. And for anybody who's grown up in areas like this, you completely understand what they're talking about. And as they're having this conversation, a young female comes running up to them saying that her friend needs some help. And so his brother Jimmy really decides to jump in. His philosophy doesn't really stick to the philosophy of living in a ghetto or something like that, where it's keep your head down. And this is where they run into the gentleman killer, apparently a serial killer that's ravaged the south side for quite a bit now. And so Jimmy jumps in and starts to just layway in on this guy. And this is where we see him get slashed. And upon him getting slashed, Johnny comes running in, and we see Johnny's hands start to glow. And he punches the gentleman killer right in the face and knocks him so far back that he hits the wall and shatters the concrete wall behind him. And this is where we have Jimmy standing over his brother who's dying, and him screaming out to the sky because he can see the Iron Ascender up above. And he knows that he can hear him. He just didn't care. And he goes back full circle to his brother saying sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes. Now, what I do have to say about this panel specifically, it feels almost a little emotionless. Like, yes, his brother, he's crying over his brother and stuff, but I'm saying more Jimmy himself, he's lying there, and I don't know if he's supposed to be dead already. It seems like there's just a few missing gaps here. A couple more panels would really bring some depth to this story. That way you can connect with it on a real level, because so far it's felt like it's just missing, like I said, just a few panels, like something small, just to add in a little bit more depth to it. But continuing on, we arrive in the hospital, and Johnny's sitting in a hospital bed, and he's gave a description to the Detective Simmons, about exactly, what happened and all that stuff. And so the detective's curious, like, you punched him, like, all the way across the alley. Like, I'm really curious, how did you punch him? And so they go outside, and he shows the detective how he punched him, and the detective, like, kind of laughs at him, like, are you kidding me? Like, that's how you punch? And so he shows him a little bit of technique, and we're brought back to his high school years again. And one of his female friends is getting picked on, and his kinetic energy pops up again, and he punches one of these bullies straight across the hallway. And so with the death of his brother, he goes on to become a superhero for the South Side. He understands he has these abilities. The Cinder abandoned them. They need a hero. And we come up to two girls that seemingly are about to be assaulted, and Kinetic wastes no time in getting in on these guys. And we see his hands start to glow up, and he goes in. He goes in with no plan, no real understanding of what he's doing or even how to fight. He just knows that there are people on the South Side that need help, that are being neglected. And so he wastes no time getting these three knocked down. He does take some damage doing it, but he's able to be able to best these guys in the end. At the end of the day, he's got a ridiculous amount of power. And so they ask who he is, and we flash back to high school again. And this is where his professor is talking about the potential energy and kinetic energy. And so really, to summarize, for those that don't know, potential energy is the energy that is stored in an object due to its position relative to the same zero position. An object possesses gravitational potential energy if it is positioned at a height above or below the zero height. So in essence, energy can neither be created nor can it be destroyed. Potential energy is the energy in a body due to its position, while kinetic energy is the energy in a body due to its motion. The formula for potential energy is mgh, which M stands for mass, G stands for gravitational acceleration, and H stands for height. So with that, he takes on the name Kinetic. And I really enjoy that. They definitely went scientific with it, and they gave his scientific background on why he got the name. And so now the South Side has the hero that it needs. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think. Like I said, the only thing I really felt like is it just needed a few extra panels, just to explain a little bit more of the story, give a little bit more history, make it a little bit more emotional, because he lost his brother, and then he immediately is jumping into crime, and there's no mourning time, there's no funeral. Like, did this happen right afterwards? It really leaves out a few details there. Outside of that, I really do enjoy the story. It seems like it's got the possibility to go a long way. This is an 8-part story arc. So 8 parts in total, plus they have another Kickstarter coming out right now, so you guys can go check that out on Kickstarter, support it. It's called Kinetic Identities, which is, again, the artwork, the cover art is absolutely spectacular. You couldn't miss it if you even wanted to. So yeah, with that being said, guys, please make sure you like and subscribe to the page if you like the content I'm putting out. And until the next video.